and all that, so he designed it. And thereafter, if you wanted to build a moth, you sent to Chris Nielsen, and he would supply the set of plans and lines and tolerances, and you paid about £1 fee it was then, and at the end of the season you sent a cheque to the designer for the number of plans you'd sold, you know.
Yeah.
So it's quite interesting from that point of view. Cheverton, of course, is quite a famous yacht designer's name in a way, but it applied to another Cheverton, which I don't think he was any relative, but he was a very good yacht designer, and there were many Cheverton designs around at the day in that time. So I went to the committee meetings, and in fact I even remember who the treasurer was then. It was a man called Fraser Matthews. He handled the finances, and there were 2 or 3 very, very prominent members, but they were sort of based really, I suppose, round Desborough and that part of the Thames, and Aquarius, of course, which Aquarius on the Thames, just near Sunbury, is really a very narrow strip of land belonging to the Waterboard. And so all the club had was about a 14-foot strip along the edge of the river there. And of course, one of the earliest moth members of all, a far older member than me, of course, still alive, is Morris Metcalfe.
Yeah.
But he used to amuse me because he said when he first started laying it, there was a couple of strips of barbed wire between them and the field and the banks of the reservoir, and there were balls on it. But anyway, Staines also was a very, very good club. They had quite a few moths, and prominent among the Staines members was Chris Edwards. And Chris, like Chris Nielsen, never won the moth championships, but he was a great concentrated sailor, particularly in light weather, and he's sailing a boat called Lazy Snell. And his father, who was a colonel, he'd built the boat, and the boat was built with the usual ply, which of course the lightest ply that you could get in those days. I don't know what it's like nowadays, but it was called Gaboon ply, but it was good quality. And Colonel Smith built Lazy Snell with screws at inch intervals. She was a beautiful boat, but very, very heavy. But nevertheless, he came to Broxbourne for our first ever Moth Open meeting on the lake, which was in, I believe, must have been the first or second year we were there, because as I said, when I did the opening speech for the new club room, I said we didn't have a club room, and we had this 60-foot marquee. And the man who did a lot for moths as well, of course, was from Medley Sailing Club, and it was Ted Hicks. And Ted Hicks and his wife had owned a private school, but they went to yachting and they had moths on the river. And also on the river, that was that time with the other very, very prominent yacht designer, who subsequently had the Willis Janet Gallen boat.
Yeah, Fundy.
And then this other chap, I think of his name at the moment, but I mean he's well-known yacht designer, Lake District and everything. Yeah, what's his name? You know, it doesn't matter now. We can pick it up later.
Yeah.
So anyway, he was visiting Broxbourne for our open meeting, and the Commodore's son, Charlie Harford, worked for the LCC, and he was able to get a used marquee. So that was our first club room on the centre of Duin in 1963. First year we managed without. And I don't know if you've seen the pegs that they use for the guy ropes on circus and tents and marquees and things. They're big sort of hexagon shaped wooden spike, but they hit them with a very, very heavy steel band mallet, many pound, but round the top to stop the wood splitting was a metal band about as wide as a couple of your fingers. But of course what it did is stop the wood going all over the place. Well, this marquee, being old, second hand, it had a very nasty ridge of steel that had spread from the band out like a knife, like this. And poor old Ted, before the first race, stumbled into it and ripped about a 5-inch gash in his leg.
Oh, dear.
And I had to take him to hospital to have it sewn up. Yeah, well, some of the earliest members, of course, were based around the Thames. There was John Shilling was he was a surveyor for United Dairies, actually, but he was very good helmsman in moths. And he built a boat and interpreted the rules about beam crop. A beam crop is the straight line between the gunnels, right, and where the curve of the deck is that the mast stands on. Because in a tolerance it said the distance from this line shall be no more than 2.5 inches. So he thought, oh, well, that'd be clever. What he did, he dished the deck and made it the mast 5 inches shorter, virtually. Do you follow me?
Yeah.
He said it doesn't say positive or negative. So that boat was number 500, and in later years it came to Broxbourne. But of course, whilst it was alright, if it was very, very windy, it lost a hell of a lot when it was light, you know, not having the height to catch the wind. Conditions you get on rivers and our lake as well, I suppose. And of course the other there was Chris Nilsson, John Shilling, and of course the Riggs, Ruby and David Riggs at Desborough Sailing Club, all very, very old moth helmsmen. And Leo Clarkson and Dora, they were also at Desborough. Leo, of course, was a Met officer in the RAF for years and years in Cyprus. So I got to know most of them pretty well. But that said, I hadn't met the other famous yacht designer from Medley, and that, of course, was Ian Howlett. And Ian Howlett, as I understood it, had designed at least 3 British America Cup challenges, which was quite something. And he has got many other designs to his credit, including sailing boats used in the Lake District. But he was a very, very good helmsman. But they were up at Oxford, and of course in those days all the masts were wooden, and the mast maker was Collar, C-O-L-L-A-R, Collar, from Oxford. And the wooden masts were great, because if you capsized, you know, no fear of it turning turtle. You know, in fact, you swam to the end and try and pull the mast under the water, you'd have a job to do it. And of course they were right, but wooden masts, you see, they get, well, in the dinghy world, are called shakes. They get horizontal cracks across the mast, but very, very close together, and you can hardly see them. And of course the trick was then you could see it was on its way out, it was bending far too much. You used to wait till it was blowing like the clappers and go out and break it and get a new one under the insurance. And of course there was Bossom's Boatyard, which everybody knows was on the Thames. I suppose it is the Isis up there, isn't it? And they built many, many boats, and the story about Twitt, of course, is that a new set of frames was made by them, and it only produced 5 or 6 boats from 391 to 396. And all the boats were very, very quick. In fact, 396 was owned by a man called Stuart Pearson from Broxbourne Sailing Club, and he used to be very, very prominent in racing in those days, but the boat was finished by Bottoms themselves, as was the earlier ones.